Yo, it's your boy Madman Habs with another video, and today's video is signs you're at a bad school and how to deal with it. So I mean, first of all, I want to ask you a few questions. Are you at a school where you feel you're in a classroom, it's first of all it's small and it's packed full of other students, almost like over capacity, and there's always disruption, there's never really learning, and some of the lessons it's just horrible, like the teachers are just crap, they can't even teach, they don't know how to engage with you, how to make the lesson fun, and how to actually make sure that you're learning. And do you feel like the school in general isn't supportive of your learning and they don't really care, they just want you to get in, get out, bye, go home, just make sure you're here because you have to be here? And do you feel if you're in your later years, are they adequately supporting you to make the right decision in your next step after school? So these are the things that I'm gonna be talking about. It's less based on the students and make the school bad, and that can happen, but it's more the school itself, the infrastructure, the way it's set out, the foundations of it, how it teaches, what kind of teachers it brings in, what kind of like activities it has going on in the week, on a daily basis. So yeah, check out this video if you like it, enjoy it. Press like, share if you find it's useful to your children, your parents, your friends who might be going to school or at a crap school, and share it to them as well. So yeah, and the last thing I want to say is I want to really apologize to everyone, because I did say I'll produce a video every week. I've had a bit of madness with work because I started a new job, got a business on the run, and COVID in general is just a complete cock up. So I'll be producing videos every 2 weeks on a Sunday. So yeah, enjoy the video and let's get started. Alright, so as I said, I want to talk about bad schools, and one, how to identify it if you don't know it already, and two, essentially the main bit I want you to take away from this video is how to actually deal with it while you're there and your options are limited. So there are many bad schools out there, and it's unfortunate that, and also unsurprising, that it's usually a non-selective state school that's based in a poor area, whether that be across the UK, globally, or wherever you are. It's just the way it is. And of course the obvious is, you try pick a school that's better in terms of reputation and grades, but that tends to happen in areas that are safer, more affluent, and also comes at a huge costs, in terms of fees. So if you want a private school, then that costs money. And so I wanna target this video at those who are at schools which don't have a good reputation. You can feel it. I mean, the first step is in that school, and there's many more schools around, right, that are quite similar. You want to pick the best of the worst. That's how it is. You'll be based in a crap area, and going too far out, the commute time and cost to even get there is a limitation. And let's just say in your area you have 3 not so good schools. Try pick the best out of the worst, and that's just like a first step. But let's just say, for reasons, you might be in year 10, you're ready, you're halfway through the school, it's hard to change, your friends are there, or your parents can't afford the fees, or it's not viable to get into another school at this time just because it's quite disruptive. Let's see, first of all, some of the bad traits in those schools, and how to deal with it, and just deal with what you got, basically. So from my personal experience, I knew my school wasn't the best, but it's definitely one of the better ones amongst the shitty schools. That doesn't mean anything, because when you're comparing across the country, it was a shit school. And I didn't realize how bad it was until so this is when I'm 11 to 16, I'm going to school and thinking, okay, this is a crap school, but let me just do what I can do. I know it's crap, but I didn't realize how bad it was until I met my peers at university who were from like grammar schools, private schools, and generally just selective state schools that are, you know, making you do tests and whatnot. And you learn some of the things they had is crazy, and you think almost basic, and why was it not embedded in my school? And so the first thing I want to start off with is lack of filtering in classes between lower sets and top sets. You know, naturally, and some people are just, you know, good at certain subjects, and or just generally smarter and more quick-witted or learn quicker and whatnot. And it's important that as a school you recognize that, because placing incredibly bright students amongst students who don't find academia as their forte, it slows them down. And it's sad, it happens, and it's true, and it was the case in my school. So in my school we had maths, and which they had to split us into top sets and bottom sets. Some kids just didn't understand maths at all. So can you imagine being in a class where a teacher comes out with an equation, and the bright kids get it, but the kids, let's just say a few of them, don't understand. You know, they'll want to explain differently, they will slow it down, and you know, you can't really move on. It just doesn't work. So maths was a no-brainer, you had to split. But things that really concerned me was that science wasn't split until in my last year at university. Not university, rather, a school. And we were like the guinea pig year to like actually try out where the smart kids take on like a triple science. So like biology, chemistry and physics, whilst other kids just take a double walled GCSE, where it's all of them blended in. And so that was only trialled out the last year, but before that there was no split between that, and that's quite frightening, especially if you're a parent and you know your child is bright, but it's being put in a set where there's kids who don't really, they're not sharp catch on, and also the same way that the class might be going too fast for your child, and because there's a bunch of bright students in there, whereas they would be better in a bottom set where they can go at a slower pace and aim for a certain grade. The worst thing was English, actually. My English classes were a joke. Like, when I compare it, and I want to give you guys some perspective, because you might not know any kids from private schools or grammar schools or like schools that generally educate better. But I'll give you an example, and this was just the perfect example. So in my English classes, we're reading of My Cement, great little book, and we would come into class and do group reading, as a whole class, and maybe we then analyze it after reading a few pages. Kids in my class just couldn't read. Like, honestly, they found it difficult to read, so you'd have to listen to them read, stutter, which is fine and it happens, but the first aspect of having to sit in class and read it together as a class when we could read it at home, that was just a waste of time in a sense. I guess it forced us to read it, because in such a school it might be tough to force kids to read things at home, but it should have been pushed on us, which wasn't. And I then compared it to my friends at university who went to better schools, and what they were told to do was go home, read the book, come in, and we focus on analysing it, dissecting it, and focus on the essays and how to write and think about the text and what the author's trying to portray and all of these stuff. We did that at my school in my English classes, but half the time, or a good 30% of the time, we were focusing on class group reading, which is an absolute joke. Second thing, it wasn't split, so no matter how smart you are and how good your English was, and there was a few of us, you wasn't split to top tier, you was mixed. And this goes across all the subjects across the school, and so that was really bad. Honestly, it was detrimental to our learning, as especially as someone who's a high achiever, and even people who didn't like academia as their favorite subject, because now you're having to go with the pace of the classroom, which might be too high and advanced. So that was the main first thing. And the reason why the school did that, because I'm talking about the school right how it was set up, was they were just focusing on their reputation of getting XYZ percentage of students. So for GCSE and maths, passing from A to C or A star to C. Now they were just pushing everyone for the C grade bandwagon. They couldn't give a crap about A star, A or B or whatever it was, right? And I know nowadays in your grade system it'll be like 9, 8s and 7s because they've changed the grading system. They were pushing everyone to get a 4 basically, and it was purely just for statistics, just for the school to show that, you know, it's got 98% passed students, and that was pretty sad. So how would you even deal with that? And I want to go through each problem, and then I want to talk about how to deal with it. First, always aim to be in the top set of any classes. So if there is a top set, aim to be in a pass your mock test, your current test, and push to be in that class. It'll only benefit your learning. Even if you haven't naturally been able to get that grade, prove to the teacher that you're willing to put the hard graft in and push it, and, you know, put in extra work. Let's just say your classes aren't divided into sets, so like your top set or lower set. Let's just say like my English classes, right? So what you want to do, if I was there, is ask to be in another classroom where it's calmer, where there isn't much disruption. If it's a mixed set, where the teacher's more likable and you know it fits your kind of learning, choose to be in those classes. Chances are the classes run in tandem, so your year group or half the year will be doing English classes at any given one time. Ask to be in that class and say, you know, you're not happy with your current teacher or the current classroom. Third thing, and you know, it's natural, is take fate into your own hands and study it yourself. Use those classes, I guess, just to rebound and be individualistic in your approach. So like, ask the teacher where you need help and use their support, but study in your own time. So one of the next big issues of bad schools is the things that are done outside a classroom. And in a bad school, there isn't much. Honestly, it's so bad. I had friends in schools where they had swimming competitions, swimming clubs, society clubs, all of these things. And in a poor school, or a bad school rather, there's literally nothing to do. You come to school, you do your subjects, you have your lunch break, you have your general break, you have PE and all of that stuff, and then after school you go home. And I remember being in school and there was literally nothing on. The only thing I remember was once, by like the graceful kindness of one teacher, there was a Wednesday chess club which we used to go to. Part of it was like we enjoyed chess, the other bit was we get to leave early for lunch, but it was nice to have, and there should have been more things like that. So in a bad school, you'll see a sign. That'll be a sign where the school doesn't really give a crap about your extracurricular activities. What are you doing outside of school? What are you doing to become a fully well-rounded person, rather than just come to the school for the sake of coming to school? And, you know, in a ways to tackle that, one is you can actually maybe ask if you have like a board or like a student voice platform. I mean, first of all, be a part of that voice platform, but also voice it and say, look, we need more things going on outside of school. I'll be honest, one other thing I did have in school, luckily, and it's the only reason that it made my school slightly special, and I'll name the school as Morpeth School. We had an ex table tennis star, out of the kindness of his self, I guess, used the school as a facility to train, and slowly my school became quite known for table tennis, but that was it. And I think he pushed it really well, just because he played for Great Britain and he really pushed for it. But other than that, there was nothing more to it. So in terms of advice now, again, voice it in your school. You know, you want XYZ activities, there should be societies. If you're interested in photography, why isn't there the photography department doing something outside of school or at lunchtime or break time? Because obviously teachers don't really want to work extra. If if they don't care about their job. You can also like Google volunteering programs, just get involved in a few things outside of school. Focus on a specific sport. There's loads of sports clubs out there. I know quite a few of them might be charging fees, so when you're in as a young guy, it was easy to join a football club, like just a local football team. They always play on a Saturday. It's free, you don't need to pay anything. It's good just to like sports, have like training days after school every week. And do all of this. Of course your studies come first, but these other things are very important, and it makes you well-rounded. And it's such a shame that some schools don't even provide this. So then my other telltale sign of a really bad school is the high number of supply teachers or cover teachers. And in a good school, you'd like to see teachers you already know cover the lesson for someone else. And supply teachers come in when a teacher's sick, training day, they have to have some time off, whatever it is, right? But what my school do is they bring in some teachers training. They have a year to become a teacher, and they need some experience, which is fine, and I encourage it, and it's needed. But the tools they give the supply teacher, and the fact that you have 30 rowdy students in a classroom in a state school where it's troublesome already, it's a recipe for disaster. All the supply teachers were given comprehension. We do not like comprehension. You're sitting there reading loads of text and you're answering loads of answers that you don't really understand why you need to do it. You don't understand, or you don't have the time and energy, and you have the time, rather, but you don't have the energy and concentration to focus on it, because everyone knows this is a temp teacher. Everyone knows there's time to piss around, and the temp teacher is almost passive. They're there, they give you the paper, they just watch over you, and they walk around helping you. They don't have any control of the class. They can't kind of shine through their charisma, their personality as a teacher, show them the teaching style, practice even their teaching style, because even for them it sucks, right? Because you get the experience, but it's been a hell of a bad experience, and you're just told almost to kind of oversee, like a security guard, what the students are doing. So all those lessons that we've ever had supply teachers and a lot of during my schooling years, and in a bad school it happened quite often. A waste of time, honestly, complete waste of time. You sit there, you do it, you don't know what you learn. Even the kids that complete it, you just end up copying the other person to show that you've done it. No learning whatsoever takes place when a supply teacher is put in and given that limitation just to do comprehension, and you're full of a class full of 30 kids who know it's a supply teacher and they have not taken control, then all hell lets loose. In fact, one point I remember we used to use, is a bit mank, but we used to take the ends of the pens off, so you have like almost a tube, rip a bit of tissue, put saliva on it, and you shoot it as a pea shooter. Looking back, that was disgusting because all the germs, COVID now and all sorts, but back then it was funny. And honestly, once we left a supply class, it was a geography class, I remember, and all you can see on the floor was little white dots everywhere. It was disgusting, and it was a crazy lesson. When you're a student, you're back there, you think this is funny, but so these are kind of things you're dealing with in a bad school, and on a frequent basis, having supply teachers and unproductive lessons. So how do you deal with this? If you are studying outside and you have to be in the class, I'll just say, do you know what? Enjoy it. Enjoy the fact that you can let loose a little bit. I know it doesn't sound like very good advice or like angelic, but sometimes you just gotta enjoy it. Take time, cool off, relax, maybe have fun, go with the class. Like, you're trying to focus and you can't really focus because it's a lesson that's messed up and you can't get out of it. Then just enjoy it and go with it. Do the comprehension. Most of the smart kids will finish early, and then they'll just piss around for the rest of the day in that classroom. Sorry. The second thing is, if you can choose to be in another class, go. Like, there's a supply teacher, there's another geography class running for like the same year group. Choose to be in there. Like, sod being in there. I remember I used to get sent out a lot. Honestly, 5 kids will get sent out in that class. It just wasn't worth it. I didn't understand why I was there. Another thing you can do is just actually take the work and get out of the classroom. So if they are giving you comprehension, go to the library. And with the supply teachers, you need attendance, and that's it. You can ask their permission. Most likely they'll probably say no, just because they have to manage over you and they don't have that form of authority. If it's really bad and the classroom is really disruptive, go talk to another teacher or just walk out and do your studies, because your studies come first, right? Obviously, try and manage it well. I'd rather go to another teacher or another classroom first and foremost, or just suck it up for that time being, but use that as a time to just relax, get the work done, and then just chill. Another telltale sign of a bad school is just bad teachers, honestly. Bad in so many ways. Bad in the way they teach. The amount of teachers is changing every year, and lack of passion. Like, you can tell the teacher doesn't really care about the subject, and lack of engagement. They don't really go out of their way to engage you, make the lesson fun, tailor it to you. They can see, like, okay, this is a boring subject, how do I make it interesting, how do I make it fun? Even if the subject is boring or whatever, play a game at the end, or do something what the students would like, or have a prize, do these things. But some teachers are just so monotone, so dull, so like disengaged with the students. They want you just to turn up, do the work, get out, turn up on time, give you a little headache. Like, these teachers, right? And you just look at them and think, what the hell, why are you even teaching? And sadly, at a bad school, it's quite common. I mean, the teachers don't really want to be the really good ones, and you end up with all the crap ones, which is detrimental to your learning, because when you have a good teacher, it can really push the wind in yourself, in terms of enjoying the subject, getting good grades, making you feel passionate about it, and making you actually enjoy the subject. When you enjoy your lessons, you learn so much more. And when you have bad teachers, they are like too much salt to a curry. It will just kill the whole vibe. Everything else can be perfect, but they can just ruin it. And so, how do you deal with this, or how do you tackle that you have bad teachers, or don't really like the teaching method of this specific teacher? One, you can voice your opinion if the school has reviews on like the teaching methods or specific teachers or specific lessons. Another thing that I didn't really realize was that your parents have a lot of authority. When they say something, they need to be heard. You as a student can say something, but teachers, it's sad, but they don't really care as much. Whereas when it's coming from a guardian or parent who's actually coming to school, something will be done, or something will have to be done, and they will have updates. So if you have issues, if you have problems, if you feel like a certain teacher isn't doing good in a certain way, and you want to change classrooms, or use another teacher, or have something changed, and and you have valid points, then speak to your parents, or speak to your older brothers and sisters who are your guardians. So they have to be obviously over 18, and ask them to have a call with like the head teacher, or coming to school, or the head of the department, and put those things in place. Other than that, there's nothing much more you can do. If a teacher's bad, it's a bad teacher. You just need to take control, and ideally opt for better teachers, or try to get into a better classroom with a better teacher that you enjoy. Another thing I really noticed personally was in my school, the lack of career advice. It was horrendous. We don't have parents or teachers to help us understand what we want to do. I remember in my school we had a lady who's like the career lady, and she barely helped. She just asked you what you want to do. I remember at the time I said I want to be a civil engineer or an architect. They're very similar, but also distinctly very different. And she just directed me to a website and said, hey, like, have a read on that. I don't have any material on it, which is really bad. It seemed like she was there just to give general people advice and like how to move on to like apprenticeships and whatnot, but honestly it was just useless. Things they could tell me is like, okay, I want to be a civil engineer or an architect. What's the fundamental difference? What A-level subjects, like what routes will I need to take? What degree, what post-degree qualifications and professional qualifications would I need? What kind of environment am I set up in? All these things either guide me to it or just tell me. And you think, okay, hold on, why should an adult learn about a specific career? But your job is a careers person. I mean, I'm no career advisor, but I'm pretty sure if I sat with every single individual in a classroom and I asked them what they wanted, I would know how to get there. I would have an inkling, or it would take me a 10-minute research just to help guide them or show them the research that's needed. And other things in general, like they were never pushing the boundaries. So let's just say you want to be a plumber. Everyone knows you need to do an apprenticeship, but how successful do you want to be as a plumber? Like, do you want to own your business? Do you want to like own a franchise? Do you want to just work for yourself? Do you want to work for a company? All these things, right? And how would you get out there? What would you do? Is it worth doing like a few years in the industry, getting to learn the tricks of the trade? All these things, right? And they never did that. So it's definitely a bad sign of a bad school. And generally, what are the next steps? You know, they said, you know, you should do X, Y, Z. Let's just say you want to be an architect. Yeah, great, get into college and do, you know, go buy it and do that. But they never ever advised you on what A-levels to take. Should even take BTEC, because I know a lot of universities, the big ones especially, don't really look at BTEC, and I'll do a video on that later. And so it was shocking. Honestly, I could displace a careers advisor that was at the time at my school easily right now, and whatever field she's currently or she was experienced in, it means fuck all, because it did not help whatsoever. Other things I haven't really mentioned in this video, but these, whilst they're not like linked directly, but they're indirectly an effect of the school. And in a bad school, these are the very common traits, and I blame it on the school. It's not the students' fault, it's not the parents' fault, partly teachers' fault, but not so. It's just how it's organized and how it's set up. And these are the things you'll notice in a bad school. So one, bullying is ubiquitous, and that means commonplace. That means it's everywhere. It happens on a daily basis, and I've come onto this, and I'll do a video again on this, which I did promise later. It's so common that it becomes normalized, and in a bad school, it just becomes the norm, which is sad. School fights are so common, and the fact that students aren't mentally supported, or like their voices aren't heard, or they don't have a comfortable and safe environment rather to express themselves, it's because of a poor schooling system, or within that school they have poor structures. You know, like whether that be taking corrective disciplinary action against people who are always constantly fighting or making trouble, or preventative measures against bullying, or you know, not creating a safe environment for students to speak up or voice their opinions, or help them feel part of the school and part of the school identity. These are all faults of the school for not having these structures in place.
So I just want to say the last thing is that some things cannot be fixed overnight. A school can't get better overnight, and all you need to do is persevere and take charge in your own studies and make those changes to adapt. Now, when something's fundamentally broken, it's not your responsibility to go out there and make a change. What I mean by that is, it's not your responsibility to voice your opinion and make sure the change happens within the school. And again, it takes time. So in that time, focus on yourself, improve your surroundings, your environment, and your method and your focus by doing the things that I've suggested, or even find your own way, whilst the environment around you can't change. But if you can change the environment around you, i.e. move to a better school, then by all means do that first step. Again, I understand that's quite hard, it's quite tough. You might be midway through your year, it might be again difficult because of financial challenges, commuting and whatnot. So while you're in that stage and the environment around you cannot change situations you have control over. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you had some insight into some things. You can see what is bad out of school that shouldn't really be there, and also how to overcome those situations. And ultimately, I hope your success in your studies, and that you make the most out of your time at school. So if you really like this video, enjoyed some of my tips, even have something to add, or other issues you found personally at school that make it really bad and needed advice, or want my 2 cents on how to tackle it, then just comment below and I'll try to get to you. Have a lovely day, guys.